Lesson 155. Peck, beak. What do we mean when we say that a chicken pecks the ground?
When we say that a chicken pecks the ground, we mean that it picks up food from the ground with its beak.
Block, clay. What do we call the blocks of hard clay that are commonly used to make buildings?
We call the blocks of hard clay that are commonly used to make buildings bricks.
What else can we make from clay?
We can make plates, cups, etc. from clay.
Why do the police sometimes block a road?
The police sometimes block a road because they are searching for criminals.
Cream, fatty. What is cream and where does it come from?
Cream is the fatty part of milk or anything which looks or feels similar to it.
Do you believe it's worth spending money on expensive face creams?
No, I don't believe it's worth spending money on expensive face creams.
Spring, sprang, sprung. Spring. Do you spring out of bed in the morning?
No, I don't spring out of bed in the morning.
What are the three forms of spring?
The three forms of spring are spring, sprang, sprung.
Can you feel the springs inside the mattress on your bed?
Yes, I can feel the springs inside the mattress on my bed.
Curious, investigate. Are cats well known for having a curious nature?
Yes, cats are well known for having a curious nature.
If you heard a curious noise outside your room in the middle of the night, would you stay in bed or go and investigate?
If I heard a curious noise outside my room in the middle of the night, I'd go and investigate.
What do we call a police officer who investigates crimes?
We call a police officer who investigates crimes a detective.
Keen. Are you keen on sport?
No, I'm not keen on sport.
Are young children nearly always keen to learn new things?
Yes, young children are nearly always keen to learn new things.
Article, journalist. About how many extra articles of clothing would you say the average person wore on a cold winter's day?
I'd say the average person wore 5 extra articles of clothing on a cold winter's day.
What kind of people write articles in newspapers?
The kind of people who write articles in newspapers are professional writers or people who have special knowledge of particular subjects.
If you worked as a journalist, what kind of articles would you like to write?
If I worked as a journalist, I'd like to write political articles.
Bold, courageous. What do we mean when we say that someone behaves boldly?
When we say that someone behaves boldly, we mean that they behave courageously or confidently and without fear.
Do you think clothes in bold colours suit you?
No, I don't think clothes in bold colours suit me.
Why do we sometimes type a word in a document in bold?
We sometimes type a word in a document in bold so that the word is more noticeable on the page.
Strike, struck, struck. Striking. Survive. What am I doing?
You're striking your pen on the table.
If you were struck by lightning and survived, would the experience change the way you felt about your life?
Yes, if I were struck by lightning and survived, the experience would change the way I felt about my life.
If you were on your way to a friend's birthday party and it suddenly struck you that you'd forgotten their present, would you go back and get it, or would you just go without it?
If I were on my way to a friend's birthday party and it suddenly struck me that I'd forgotten their present, I would go back and get it.
If we describe a building as striking, what do we mean?
If we describe a building as striking, we mean that it is interesting and attracts our attention because it looks different from other buildings.
Shoplift, imprison. Do you think that people who shoplift should be imprisoned?
No, I don't think that people who shoplift should be imprisoned.
Remedy, cure. Is there a cure for the common cold?
No, there isn't a cure for the common cold.
Do you usually take a cold remedy to make you feel better when you have a cold?
Yes, I usually take a cold remedy to make me feel better when I have a cold.
Aircraft, helicopter. What types of aircraft take off vertically?
Helicopters and certain special aeroplanes take off vertically.
Stain, woodwork, ink. Why do some people prefer to stain woodwork rather than paint it?
Some people prefer to stain woodwork rather than paint it because the woodwork looks more natural if it is stained.
If you discovered an ink stain on an article of clothing, how would you try to remove it?
If I discovered an ink stain on an article of clothing, I'd try to remove it by washing it.
Creep, crept, crept. What does the word creep mean?
The word creep means either to move forwards very slowly or to move slowly and quietly so that nobody hears you.
Give me an example of each, please.
The traffic was creeping along very slowly owing to the fact that several roads had been blocked by the police. Elizabeth crept into the room so as not to wake the baby.
Passage, extract. What does the word passage mean?
The word passage can mean a long, narrow space, generally between two buildings or inside a building, like a corridor. It can also mean a short extract from a speech or piece of writing.
Steer, steering wheel. What am I pretending to do?
You're pretending to steer a car.
And what do we call the thing I'm pretending to hold?
We call the thing you're pretending to hold a steering wheel.
Aside. What does the word aside mean?
The word aside means on one side or to one side.
Do you put money aside each month to save for any special purpose?
Yes, I put money aside each month to save for some special purpose.
During an evening out with friends, would you have to take somebody aside from the rest of the group if you wanted to speak to them in private?
Yes, during an evening out with friends, I'd have to take somebody aside from the rest of the group if I wanted to speak to them in private.